The Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee's Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations held a hearing titled "The Corruption of Science and Federal Health Agencies." Is this getting wild or what? Senate leaders are questioning how health officials downplayed and hid myocarditis and other adverse events associated with the COVID-19 vaccines. Finally, this particular hearing occurred on May 21st. This hearing was followed by a related hearing called Voices of the Vaccine Injured on July 17th. This hearing focused on personal accounts of people who were harmed by vaccines. These sessions, chaired by Senator Ron Johnson, a Republican from Wisconsin, featured witnesses who criticized the mRNA vaccine rollout. They accused federal agencies and pharmaceutical companies of suppressing data on adverse events and called for formal investigations into vaccine safety, claims of efficacy, and regulatory failures. In this video, we will take a comprehensive look at key witnesses' testimonies. These witnesses emphasize systemic lies about vaccine safety, such as claims that mRNA shots would remain localized and degrade quickly. They highlighted underreported risks like myocarditis, blood clots, and long-term spike protein persistence. Dr. Peter McCullough, Maryland, and MPH, is a cardiologist and epidemiologist at the Wellness Company. Dr. McCullough is also a former professor at Texas A&M University and a practicing cardiologist with over 1,000 peer-reviewed publications. He testified based on his clinical observations and analysis of VAERS, the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, data. He described treating numerous patients post-vaccination who developed severe cardiovascular issues, including myocarditis, pericarditis, and unexplained blood clots. All of these conditions he linked directly to mRNA-induced spike protein toxicity. In one example, he recounted a 28-year-old male patient who days after his second Pfizer dose suffered acute myocarditis leading to heart failure. Despite aggressive treatment, the patient required a heart transplant and faced lifelong complications. McCullough also accused the CDC and the FDA of willfully ignoring early safety signals from 2021. He claimed they redefined myocarditis criteria to exclude vaccine-related cases. And they pressured hospitals to underreport incidents. This is the CDC and FDA hiding important heart risks for whatever reason. The doctor highlighted a surge in blood clots like never before, citing autopsy studies showing spike protein persistence in vascular tissues for months, which contradicts official narratives that the mRNA would degrade within days. Calling the vaccines experimental genetic platforms rather than true vaccines, he demanded an immediate halt to boosters. He also urged a congressional subpoena of Pfizer and Moderna internal documents and an independent audit of VAERS data to quantify the true scale of injuries, which he estimates are over 500,000 U.S. cases. His testimony sadly revealed the professional repercussions, including loss of academic positions for publicly questioning the vaccines. He believed this was retaliation for exposing the lies that kept the money train rolling. Dr. Robert Sullivan is an anesthesiologist and researcher with 25 years in perioperative medicine was next. Dr. Sullivan testified about his own post-vaccination health crisis and subsequent research into mRNA mechanisms. In early 2021, after receiving the Moderna vaccine to maintain his hospital privileges, Sullivan developed debilitating neurological symptoms, chronic fatigue, brain fog, and neuropathy that he attributes to spike protein-induced inflammation crossing the blood-brain barrier. I did a video about a year ago on this exact same mechanism for the mRNA technology, and I'll link it at the end. So these symptoms forced him to reduce his clinical workload by 70%. That led to financial strain and emotional toll on his family. He described waking up paralyzed with fear during episodes that mimicked Guillain-Barré syndrome. Through self-funded analysis of over 500 patient records and collaboration with independent labs, Dr. Sullivan presented data showing that mRNA results in aberrant proteins that trigger autoimmune responses. This also validates what I reported about the mRNA technology in general. It carries any drug across the blood-brain barrier into your brain. Dr. Sullivan labeled long COVID a jaw-dropping lie used to mask vaccine injuries, citing cases where patients with no prior COVID exposure developed identical symptoms post-jab. Accusing agencies of knowing since 2015 that modified pseudouridine in mRNA shots caused prolonged spike production, up to 2 years in some tissues. He called it not a vaccine, but an experimental genetic modification platform. Sullivan urged a full Senate-led investigation into contamination, such as SV40 promoter sequences, and mandated transparency on booster risks, warning of a silent epidemic of turbocancers and clots. His experience included being canceled by colleagues, reinforcing his view of corrupted science. Dr. James Thorpe, an OB/GYN and maternal fetal medicine specialist, brought decades of experience treating high-risk pregnancies to his testimony. He focused on reproductive harms, drawing from a database of over 1,200 cases he had compiled since 2021. Dr. Thorpe shared the harrowing story of a 32-year-old pregnant patient who, after receiving her first Pfizer dose in 2021, miscarried at 14 weeks. The autopsy revealed placental inflammation and spike protein accumulation, which Dr. Thorpe linked to mRNA biodistribution beyond the injection site. He explained that this case mirrored dozens he had treated, including stillbirths and menstrual irregularities, with miscarriage rates spiking 50-fold after the rollout, according to his analysis of global registries. Dr. Thorpe accused the NIH and the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists of suppressing 2020 preclinical data that showed fertility risks in animal models, including ovarian damage and reduced litter sizes. He described, quote, billions made on lies about safety for pregnant women, and noted how mandates coerced vulnerable patients despite the absence of long-term trials. On a personal note, Dr. Thorpe faced threats to his medical license and media smears for publishing a 2023 paper on vaccine-induced preeclampsia surges. He called for an urgent investigation into fetal DNA integration risks from mRNA reverse transcription, a moratorium on vaccinating pregnant individuals, and reparations for affected families, emphasizing that, quote, the data was there, they hid it to protect profits. Brianne Dressen, a former Phase 3 AstraZeneca trial participant turned vaccine injury advocate, delivered an emotional account of her 2020 injury, which she says was buried by trial organizers. Just days after her dose, she awoke paralyzed from the waist down, with tinnitus so severe it drowned out her young children's voices. She was diagnosed with neuropathy and small fiber damage and remains 80% disabled, unable to work or drive. Despite immediate reporting to the trial site, her case was unblinded without her consent and dismissed as psychosomatic, leading to her exclusion from official adverse event tallies. Dressen revealed emails from trial investigators admitting her symptoms matched known risks, but instructing her to stay silent to avoid derailing approval. She went on to found React 19 to support over 36,000 reported injured individuals, many of whom have been silenced by non-disclosure agreements or gaslighting. Accusing the FDA of fast-tracking vaccines without proper follow-up, she highlighted how her story, and thousands like it, fueled distrust as agencies claimed, quote, no serious harms. Dressen demanded a Senate task force to compensate victims, estimating $10 to $20 billion would be needed, as well as a repeal of liability shields under the PrEP Act and a mandate for the public release of all trial data. Her testimony humanized the forgotten victims, describing the isolation of losing her career as a professor and the ongoing fight for basic medical validation. Dr. Joel Wallskog, an orthopedic surgeon, testified about his rapid decline after the Johnson & Johnson vaccine in April 2021, which he had taken to protect his family during the pandemic. Within 48 hours, he experienced thunderclap headaches, vision loss, and seizures, and was diagnosed with transverse myelitis and acute disseminated encephalomyelitis, a rare spinal cord and brain inflammations. Now wheelchair-bound with chronic pain and cognitive deficits, he requires round-the-clock care, devastating his role as provider for his wife and 3 children. He recounted the humiliation of relearning to walk and the financial ruin from $500,000 in uncovered medical bills. Wallskog's VAERS report was initially rejected, only accepted after legal intervention, which he said exemplified a broken reporting system rigged to undercount injuries. He criticized the CDC for downplaying neurological risks, despite 2021 internal memos acknowledging clusters, labeling it a cover-up for corporate greed. Through React 19, which he co-founded with Dressen, he's amplified stories like his own, including a Marine veteran's suicide linked to post-vaccine PTSD from dismissed symptoms. Wallskog called for congressional probes into Johnson & Johnson's data withholding, reforms to the Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program for faster payouts, and an end to safe and effective messaging without accountability. These testimonies collectively painted a picture of institutional betrayal, with witnesses urging the committee to subpoena unredacted data from Pfizer, Moderna, and agencies like the CDC to expose discrepancies between public assurances and internal knowledge. Senator Johnson echoed their calls, vowing to pursue further hearings. Notably, no witnesses in these sessions defended the vaccines. The focus remained on harms and the need for transparency,